I was going to ask you about the war.
About the war?
Yes.
Well, I remember September the 3rd.
Was that when the war broke out?
Yeah, I remember listening to.
I'll put it up there close.
We were in Gerald Street,
Yes.
and my father had a 5-valve superhet radio.
Oh gosh.
It was the valves in those days, you know, and we sat there and we listened to Chamberlain.
So did you know it was coming?
Well, we listened to. Well, I can't remember now. I remember sat there listening to Chamberlain saying that he was apologetic, you know, and there was no. He was a bit whiny. There was no, just like I'm very sorry, but we've got to go to war or war. I haven't heard from Mr. I haven't. I sent him an ultimatum or something, and I haven't heard.
No such undertaking has been received, wasn't it?
Yeah, so the state of war now exists, and I don't know. It didn't affect me that much. I don't think. I remember. I remember the day, but it must have affected me.
What were you? 13, 14?
12 was it?
I don't know. You were born in 1925 and it was 1939.
It
So
was 14.
you must have been about 14. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's it. Yeah.
So what did your parents seem like? As they were upset about it, or?
Well, he was. My father said. Well, he said there's going to be shortages. He said, sugar is going to go on. Sugar is going to disappear, and so he said he went up to. He went uptown. I went up to one of the grocers. He bought a big stack of sugar.
Wasn't everybody doing it? You did that.
No, well, I don't know. People didn't have the money. Well, I don't know who's doing it. Perhaps I mean, the local people. I mean, they didn't have a lot of money to go and do much about. But I mean,
well, you weren't exactly rich, were you?
No, but we weren't as poor off as some people. But
I mean, how long was it before they rationed sugar?
Oh, I can't remember now how long. But they brought rationing in quickly because I mean they knew what was coming, or they should have known anyway. That
well, I suppose they did know because it wasn't that long since they'd been through another war.
Yeah.
But to you, it wouldn't have meant very much.
Yeah. Well, and they started to call up. Of course, there was a lot of chaps, young fellas, you know, they all joined the territorials. Because they'd have to go for a fortnight or something, training, it was holiday, and they'd get a pair of boots. So they jumped up for a pair of boots, and as soon as war could declare, they called them up. So they had to go into the army. But I never knew much about it. I mean,
so how old was Uncle Josh then?
Well, he's 3.5 years older than me.
So he must have been nearly 18.
Nearly 18, yes. But we were working then. They started building. They were all scared of the air. You know, it was air that they was going to do the bombing. They were going to bomb everything, and we started building air raid shelters. Can't remember that because.
What were you building them out of?
What?
What were you making them out of?
Oh, bricks and cement we built in them.
All right, proper.
Well, they started issuing out Anderson shelters, and these were shelters with a corrugated steel, and you sunk them in the garden, halfway in the garden, and covered them with earth, and. A lot of people did, and they brought out Morrison shelters then, which was a steel table put in the room when you got into into the steel table. But we didn't have one. We didn't have an Anderson. My father ultimately built a shelter in the back. We built a shelter in the backyard there, up against the hospital wall. It was sunk it in the ground in brickwork. But that was it was a phony war, and no, nothing is happening. We didn't have any air raids or anything like that. I mean, they did have air raids, but I mean, they were minor things. Air raids went on in London, I think. But, well, you know, we were all, it was all a new thing. And they always thought that the bombing was going to be the thing that you were going to wipe out towns, you know. Well, Guernica in Spain was started, you know.
Sorry.
All right.
Jed, do you want the liquid?
No, thank you, Happy. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And it was a phony war, you know. There was nothing, there was no change. We were just carried on as normally for 12 months. And then all of a sudden he started going through France. And it all happened. We heard we didn't appreciate what was going on, you see, because it was happening. It had already happened before we knew anything. It was on the radio we get that Abbeville had fallen. I remember that. And he was in Abbeville. I mean, but it went on. It just didn't make any impact on me. I was just, you know, I mean, I was 14. I was going to school, and we had air raid precautions in school. I mean, it was we all had to go into our form, had to go down into the boiler house. If there was an air raid warning, we had to go down into the boiler room down in underneath there. And we used to look forward to that. And they built baffle walls in front of the windows, big brick walls around the school, you know, in front of the walls.
Stop them getting blasted.
Yeah, and it carried on. Just the blackout. They started the blackout, and it was you know, it was everything was blacked out at night, and we didn't take it very seriously because we never saw much until they started, until the bombing really started after Dunkirk. Then he started bombing, and he bombed the main centres of industry mainly, you know, Coventry. He blasted Coventry and London and Liverpool and Cardiff and Swansea, and it was you got to hear him. He had a peculiar throb. The engine used to go zoom, 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 and you'd say, "Oh, Jerry's over. Jerry's up there," you know, and you didn't, nothing was happening, so you didn't take any notice until all of a sudden he dropped a couple of bombs in Port Albert, and everybody scurried for the shelters, and we were all in the shelters then, you know, and every night now go down the shelter when the air raid warning went. But they used to go over. I don't know whether they used to go over Port Talbot and go up to Liverpool or go, you know. It seemed to be anyway. They used to go over every night, and didn't do much in Port Talbot. The searchlights were on. I mean, there was a searchlight down the end of the street.
There was no anti-aircraft fire or anything?
Oh yes, well there was anti-aircraft fire.
From where?
Well, I don't know where the guns were. I mean, a lot of them were over in Swansea, and
What's that thing on the top of Margam Mountain? That's from World War II, isn't it?
there's an observation post. They had these observation posts. They had radar. We didn't know much about radar at the time because they kept it secret. But there were observers in certain spots, up in the mountains or somewhere, and they could see the planes, and they reported that where they were, how many or whatever they did, and that was an observer's post. I never saw. We had then they started in when they started really. I'm getting a bit back about when the bombing started seriously, and they bombed Swansea, and we could see it from Swansea. Could see the lights coming on, and we were we just went to bed. I went to bed normally. Until one night they dropped some bombs down the end of Vivian Park there and blew our windows in. And my brother, was downstairs in the front room watching the lights, the searchlight. And I was in bed, I got to sleep. And my mother was downstairs and she started screaming. And I woke up. And I got out of bed and I walked along the landing, and I was just going to turn down the stairs, and my father grabbed me by the shoulder. He said, steady boy, grabbed me back. Anyway, we went downstairs, and my father put us in the corner of the chimney breast. He said, you stay in there now, and pushed the chair up in front of us. And he went out, and he thought that the bombs had dropped in the hospital. So he went out to see what he could do, but it seems, they dropped in the end of Moreland Road. There was a searchlight in Sandown Road by there, and it seemed to be the centre light, They used to it seemed to be the one, the controlling light. I don't know, it seemed a little bit different to others. And we still live in Gerald Street, or you were living in Moreland Road? Moreland Road when the war broke up.
You said when you were listening.
No, we weren't in Gerald Street. We were in Moreland Road when the war broke out.
Ah, right.
That's what it was. We were in Moreland Road, wasn't Gerald Street? No, it was because we moved into Gerald Street in 1938.
Oh, right.
And the war broke out in 1939.
So which windows blew in then?
Pardon?
Which windows got broken?
The front windows, in the bay window downstairs.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
And my John Josh was in the chair there, and they blew all the grass all over him.
Oh gosh. Was he dead?
No, no. Woke him up. But
so by then he must have been of an age to join up.
Well, he was getting on that way. Yes, he was getting on that. They were calling them up. The older ones, they were calling up the 20s, we started building the shelters. I remember Josh was on the shelters with us, Josh and Mel, and then Josh was called up. So Josh went to the army, and Mel went, and I was
there.
her.
The same Mel that we were talking about before, that used to work for you.
Yeah. His father, old Bill Matthews, he was a great old gent. He was particularly with my father. He was working for my father at the time, and we had Patsy Fleming. We were doing repairs then. There was nothing else. There was no new work. We built some water tanks in different parts of the town. They were building, and we built one out of brickwork, and and they filled it full of water, you know, if there was fires. And we were building shelters. We built them in the school and all down the street. And that's it. I started work when I was 16. I left school, and my father said to me, "Look, son," he said, "you can go on if you like, but you can come up." But he said, "I'd like to have you out in the business." Well, I was only too willing to come out to school. I'd had enough. So I went to work, and I worked. We were working in Pendarvis by the school, and we were building shelters in the street. And we were building 2 shelters in the street, and there was a concrete roof and brick and a concrete base. We put the base on ashes, concrete on ashes, so that if a bomb, it would move the shelter. There was a huge thing, mind you know, but alongside one side of the street, enough room to pass for vehicles or whatever, a cart or whatever. I weren't much cars about in those days because they took the petrol off. Anyway, I started. I went to work for my father, and I started. He said, took me to work. I was work 8 o'clock. Go there now, and I'm standing there now. And my father comes on and he said, "No, look," he said, "you go now, Tommy." Tommy Einan was the labourer. He was an elderly fella. All of them, the young fellas were being called up at that time. So Tommy Einan was the elderly fella, and when I started, anyway, I started, and he said, "Put the brick. You give Tommy a hand here now. Now Tommy will show you what to do." So anyway, I was giving Tommy a hand, putting bricks in the barrow and one thing and the other. And 2 o'clock, my father came down. He had a little car, and he came down, and he got out the car and I had a look round, and he said to me, he said, "Get in the car." So I got in the car, and he drove up to town, and we went into the Central Cafe, and he said, "Would you like a cooler? Would you like some ice cream?" I said, "Yes." So he brought me an ice cream. "This is great, work. This is great if this is work." So the next day I was there now working again, and I waited for him to come again, and he never came. Most disappointed. But anyway, we did this first. They built the first shelter, and we shattered the roof for the concrete. So it was Josh and Mel now were throwing it into the mixer and tipping the concrete then onto a stage, and Tommy Einan was throwing it up, and me and Bill Matthews are on the top now spreading it out. I don't know what help I was, but I was trying to carry it on a shovel. Anyway, after about the first week, week or so I was there, the second roof come ready. So everything now was ready for this. Now we were going to start. You got to with concrete. You got to do it all in one, you know. So anyway, we started on this now. So you got it all ready now to start on the next day, and everything was ready now. And we got there now. We had the pile of sand, the pile of chip ins, cement was ready. Everything was ready. Stage was up, mixer was there. And Bill didn't come in because he wasn't well, and Tommy Einan didn't come in because he wasn't well. So it was only the 3 of us now, Josh, Josh and Mel. So my father came down, he said, "Well, what are you going to do?" "Oh," Josh said, "we'll manage, we'll get it in, we'll do it." So, I didn't know what he was talking about. But anyway, I'd worked on the top of the roof up on the other one, you know. So I was supposed to be working at the top. He said, "We'll give you a hand if we..." Anyway, Josh, they were both now 18, and they were both ready to, fit. He'd been working since he was 14, and he was putting this in the mixer now and tipping it up. Mel was throwing it up, and he was carrying it up the top. Oh God. I didn't know how to shovel. I didn't have there's a knack to it, and the concrete started coming up, and it started to build up and dry out, So the water ran out of it, and I was trying to get the shovel in and mix it and pull it over. And anyway, they give me a hand occasionally. But anyway, at 5 o'clock now, we'd finished the concrete, and it was just a skim on the top now to make it look tidier. Cement on the top, and my father came down at 5 o'clock. He said, "What are you going to do?" "Oh, my father Josh said, we'll work on and finish it." I said, "No, we won't." I said, "I'm going home." I fell through the fence. My back was broken. I was exhausted. I wasn't fit, It was just at this school. Yeah. And I think I lost a stone in the first 2 months of it that I was in that I started.
Was your mother trying to feed you up a bit?
Well, she was always feeding us, but my mother had a rationing came in. Rationing was in, and there was the old warden was running around with the lights put that light out and all that, and we had sheets. The things that we fitted on the outside of the window to keep the lights out. So anyway, the Jerry used to come over, and he used to come over every night, and he'd always come over with the dark. Like now, it's getting dark earlier. Mm-hmm. He'd come over earlier when the dark was, and as it got lighter, he'd come over later. Mm-hmm. Just to make use of the dark. And we had a few bombing. We bombed down in Oakwood Street all the way down. And we were doing we only doing repairs. I did a lot of repairs, and there wasn't you couldn't get gutter metal, you see, for the gutters. So you got to repair the gutters that were on the houses. I had to try and repair what was there. I got a dab hand at repairing the stuff, and we got cement and sand, but I mean there was no it was difficult to get anything else.
So do you know what year it was that Uncle Josh got caught up?
Well, I know he was 18, and I think I don't know. Let me see now.
Well, if you didn't leave school till you was 16, and he was still working with you then,
yeah.
So it must have been after that.
Yeah.
And he was 3 now, so he must have been 19 or maybe 20.
Oh no, he wasn't 20. He was about 19. Yeah. Yeah. Well, how long was it before he was sent over to? Well, he was
in this country for a long time.
Oh, he was in this country for quite a while. He was in his training up in Brecon,
Yeah.
And I remember my dad said, "Come on," he said, "we'll go up and see him on a weekend, So we got in the car, and all the signs had gone off the streets, so we didn't know where we were. And the roads weren't like today. I mean, it was just, there were roads, but I mean, it wasn't...
Well, going to Brecon, you had to go over the top, didn't you, I suppose? Yeah. I mean, you didn't have any...
Well, we went up to a hill line, we knew where, and we come through this village, and all the signs had gone, and we knew we had to turn off at Hillwine for Brecon or something like that, I forget now. Anyway, he was, my father pulled into the side. There was a couple of old gents on the side, and he said, "Ask him if this is Hillwine," he said. So I opened the window now, and I went, "Excuse me," and I said, "Is this Hillwine?" "What?" this fella said. I said, "Is this Hillwine?" "What?" he said. And my father leaned over and he said, "Is this Hillwine?" "Oh yes," he said. Anyway, we went up to Brecon, and I think we stayed a night somewhere. and we saw he was. He was marching. They were marching up and down and marching and on the streets, and we were there and watching. And he was out of step, and my father said, "Oh my God!" He said, "He's out of step. Oh my God!" Yeah.
So were they worried about him, your parents?
Well, I mean, they were very concerned.
Yeah.
They worried about him. I mean, naturally, my father knew what was going to happen. He knew, and they shifted him up to St Albans. He was up in St Albans, and my father said, "We'll go up and see him." So him and my mother went up to St Albans to see Josh, and I was left back home.
I suppose St Albans isn't that far from Luton, is it?
I don't know. It's up in yes.
Stay with,
Yeah. It's up that way. Yes.
Yeah.
It's north of London, I think. Anyway, they went up to St Albans to see him, and a couple of days they were up there, and I managed them at home the weekend, and it went on. I mean, and I had my calling up papers. I don't know how old I was. 1944.
So it was around about the time your father died?
Yes. Well, he wasn't well, and I had my calling up papers, and the war was going well. It was,
Was it after D-Day?
After D-Day, aye.
So Uncle Josh had been in...
Josh was up in, up in
Hoy, wasn't he? You said
up in Shetlands.
in the
Orkneys.
Flow, was it?
Yeah. He was up in the Orkneys, he was doing,
yeah.
and he came home on leave.
Yes.
And when he went back, he said all his mates had gone. And he was up there, and he was working on this ship or something, or the ship was on, and this captain was leaning over the back, and he said, "They've gone." Just said, "Oh." Yes, he said, "They've landed." He said, "Where?" "Over in France." "Oh," Josh said, "he said, the invasion is on." "Yes," he said, "there's millions of them." Josh said, "Good," he said, "I don't have to go now. Millions gone." All his mates had gone. Anyway, a couple of weeks later, they sent him down, and he went across.
So your father was ill?
Yes, my father was ill.
And your papers then?
And I had my corner papers. And so he went around to see he got some forms and appealed for compassionate leave for me. So anyway, I had a letter back. I mean, there was a letter, a telegram or something like that, and he said that send the King's shilling back, and the railway warrant. So I didn't go, and I had I don't know what it was, 3 months.
Kind of deferment, or?
It was a deferment. It was a couple of months, and in the meantime, I mean, my father was ill, but the war was going so well. They all thought it would be over by Christmas. This was in October. My father died, but they all thought it would be over by Christmas because there was no. It was going so well. They were going like old boots through France, and the Russians were pushing, and the Americans were landed, and they were going well. I mean, everything, and they were looking for. They were looking to. There'd been so much bomb damage that they were looking for building workers to rebuild whatever, and they were getting ready now to do it. So they made building workers a reserved occupation.
Oh, there we are.
and so I never went. I got my colonel.
I expect your mother was pleased about that.
I was pleased as well. I didn't want to go, but it was although I did. All my mates had gone.
Yeah.
All my friends were there, and they were all
And
coming on.
when they came back,
And they were coming on leave,
and you couldn't join in the stories, really.
well, they were coming on leave. It was before the invasion. I mean, the fellas had gone, and they were older than me, some of them, and they'd gone, and they were coming on leave, and anyway, I never went, and as I say, I had compassionate leave, and I had corner up papers. I got them in, yeah. But it was it was all blackout, everything was in the blackout all the time. It's in the dark. You couldn't, everywhere you went, I mean, you couldn't, there were no lights, I mean, you look around now and you see all the lights, but there weren't any.
No.
I mean, the houses were blacked out, everything was blacked.
You say that the black Americans that you came over.
Oh yes, well, they were. They built an army camp out in front of our house. 3 or 4 long huts. I don't suppose there was much more than 200. You could get in them all together. And
where did they build them? Was that like where the park is, or
the Vivian Park?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't build everything. The Vivian Park now, there's opposite us. There was I built a pair of houses there.
Yeah.
Well, there was nothing there. There was a shelter. That's right, an area raid shelter on that.
Right.
And then behind the area raid shelter was this area that they'd used for behind the houses that were already there. And this area was they used it as an army camp. And all together we had the Germans there, the French, the Italians prisoners were there, and the Americans were there, the coloured fellas. The cattle used to be out on the moors, and they used to wander down and down into the streets, and there were the coloured Americans was in the camp opposite, and there was a knock at the door, and my mother went to the door. And there was this big black American standing there. And we weren't used to black people, but there was no black people around. He was standing by the door and he said, "Cars! Cars!" And my mother said, "What?" "Cars," he said, "up there." So my mother went to look, and there was cattle grazing in the front.
Well, what did he expect her to do about it?
I don't know, but he was telling her about it. Anyway, it was, I don't know what happened afterwards. The cows went out, but we were there, and Shepherd was the sergeant. We had the black Americans were there. There was Dutch soldiers down in the beach hotel, and then there was Jersey Beach Hotel, yeah. And that was down on was put down now, and there was some soldiers in the Bagalwa. There were white Americans down there, and there were black Americans down there, and there were white, and they'd moved and there were white Americans now in the camp, and they had lorries, and they parked them on the side outside our house, just on the grass there, and. Anyway, Shepherd came. I was coming home. I've been up to Cliff. And I'd been up town, I don't know where I'd been, to dance or something. But anyway, I was coming home and I walked everywhere then. I don't know whether any buses running in those days. But anyway, I was walking home and I'm walking over Beach Hill. And as I walked over Beach Hill, I'm looking down now into Victoria Road. And I could see these lights flashing. And the Americans had a peculiar torch. It wasn't the head. It didn't shine out from the top of the torch. It shined out from the side of the head, you know. And it had a brilliant spot on it. And I could see these spotlights going off and going around, you know. And 3 or 4 of them. And I thought, what's going on there, you know? And there was a bit of a kerfuffle and I could see people down there. So as I come down now, I could hear this. There's a bit of a kerfuffle going on now in the dark, and I'm walking along there, and all of a sudden they said there was a let them have it, and they all started galloping down the road. So I turned into Hospital Road with there, and there were these fellas coming down with bars, iron bars and clubs and things, you know. And I thought, oh well, let's get out of here. See, so I walked down. And as I started to walk down, there was three Americans walking behind me. So, I could hear them, they were talking, you know, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. So anyway, our house was at the end of the hospital, and the hospital had a big wall, and then there were gates. Yes. We had gates.
Yes.
Well, I always used to go in through the gate and into the back door.
All right.
So I opened the gates now and closed them, and I stood in the corner as these Americans were coming past. And one of them said to the other, no, well, if anybody asks you who hit him, you don't know. So anyway, I thought, oh well, that's it. Anyway, I went in, and in the middle of the night then there was a revving of engines, and 2 o'clock in the morning they were all these vehicles were all moving out. So a week later or a fortnight later or after that, Shepherd was a sergeant, local sergeant and he rode a bike. And my father had a car, and the road front license was in the window, and it had dropped off. So my father had taken it off and thrown it in the glove compartment. So anyway, somebody must have noticed this, and Shepherd come around to see him about it, and he knocked the door. My father said, she said, your driving license and the tax. Oh, he said, it's in the car. He said, it slipped off. And anyway, he was explaining, and Shepherd said, they started to have a little chat. And Shepherd said, he said, I thought you'd had it one night, he said. I was down there, he said, and there was these coloured Americans coming down the street there, he said, down Victoria Road. They were all coming from the hotel, and he said they were all armed up with clubs, he said. And he said, fair play. He said, they respected the uniform. He was only in there. He said, I held my hands up, he said, and they respected the uniform, he said, and I told them to go back. And they went back, he said, but they were coming down, they were going to slaughter these white. It appears that one of the black Americans are dancing with a white girl in St. Joseph's, and the white fella didn't like it and hit him or something, and it boiled up, you know.
So they had to separate them then?
Well, then they shifted them all out at 2 o'clock in the morning. They shifted them out somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
And didn't you say you met one of them coming down the road and he told you he was Welsh or something?
Oh, yes. There was a couple of fellas, a couple of them, they were talking to me, and one of them says, he says, I'm Welsh. He said, my name is Evans.
So, we like, when they were in terms of rationing, did you always have enough to eat?
No. Well, we had enough to eat, but it's only.
But it wasn't some of it wasn't very appealing.
No, well, I mean, it was a minimum amount of sugar.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all looking for saccharines or something then.
Yeah.
And, that was a new thing, saccharines. We had a couple of ounces of butter, a bit of bacon, a little bit of cheese, and meat was little. It's you could have it in sausages or but it's always meat. Ration. You had a certain amount. And my mother, of course, she was always on the road looking for food. And she come in one day. She'd been uptown. She said, "I searched everywhere for something." She said, Evans, the pies was open, and I got 2 pies, one for each of you. One for my father, one for me. She was delighted because she got a pie. But I remember everything. I mean, there was no bananas. I mean, the fruit was scarce. I mean, I remember I was walking down the back of Water Street, and there was I forget who they were now, but he had a place at the back there selling fruit and vegetables, and he had a bowl of cherries, and I bought some cherries.
Bet they cost a few bob.
I can't remember.
Now.
Yeah, I can't remember now, but he bought a few cherries. Everything was controlled when the prices were controlled.
And then, so then Uncle Josh then, he was out in France.
Yeah.
Did he see much action then?
Oh yes, he saw a bit. Yes, as I said, his company, the other soldiers had gone.
Yes.
So he was. They sent him down. He was on leave at the time, and when they took him out, so he was left there on his own, and he was with, I suppose, another group of soldiers. Anyway, he came down, and they sent him down to England, and he was in. I don't know if I getting it. No, I was getting it the right way down now. But anyway, they sent him down. That's right. They must have sent him down from the Orkneys, and he was. They sent him across, and he was reinforcements, And they took him up the line, and he said, "Well, you go in here now and go and see this officer." And the officer took him, and he said, "You come with me now." He said, he took him up the top on this bank, and they were digging holes there, and he said, "You get in the trench with so and so." So he said, "I was in the trench in this trench, and this fellow, he was a stranger to Josh, naturally Josh had been reinforcement. And anyway, this fellow said, "So I want to go and see so and so, talk with him, have a chat with him." So he jumped out, and Josh was there, and he said, "No, before that," the officer said, "Look," he said, "here you are." He said, he said, we're expecting a Panzer division through here tonight." He said, "Die at your post if necessary." And my Josh said, "Oh," he said, I had 2 hand grenades and 50 rounds of ammunition, and I got to stop a tank." Anyway, nothing happened, but later on he was in a similar position. He was in this trench, and they'd hollowed out at the end of he was to cover it over with they'd be going through the police to get house, and they ripped the doors off, put over the trench and covered it over. And he said they were. He was in the trench. He was standing on the front of the trench. He said he was, and he said these morning minnies come over. He said, and he said they blew me into the trench. He said in my head. Luckily, they had hollowed up an end in the end of the trench, and my head went in there. He said, and he said everything else come down on top of me. He said, and I couldn't see anything. I started to scream. He said, and he said, then he said, I said. Don't start shouting or screaming now, because I mean you're going to use up all the air. So he said, there, my arms are pinned. So he managed to get one arm freed. He said, I'm poking about now, and I found this stick. He said, I poked it up, and I could see the stars.
How long was he there?
He was in the, well, when he came on leave, he came home on leave, and he brought the army paper. No, the paper that I forget what they called it, but anyway, he had this army paper, and he gave it to my mother, or he gave it to me, or so we were looking at it. And there was a fella, one of the soldiers was buried for an hour and a quarter.
Oh.
And he said, that was me. So they took him out, and the officer said, he said, look, he said, you go with the MPs. He said, out of the... He was in... he advanced in Hertogenbosch. It was part of the when they dropped these Arnhem, when that went off, they had created a narrow lane up so far. They never got to Arnhem, but they'd had this narrow lane, and they wanted to widen it, so they attacked Hertogenbosch, and Josh was in it, and he said.
It's all right.
One of the he said he said the company A was to go through company. It was the A was company A was to advance. Company C was to go through A, and company B was go through C. Well, we did it. He said, and we went forward. He said, and there was this machine gun. The German machine gun, he said, it was a Schmeiser. He said, you could tell the German machine gun, it like that. It went BRRRT. And he said, it was on single shots. And they were trying to pick us off. He said, I was hiding behind a blade of grass. Yeah, he said we were going into marching up to up to this place, he said, and it was dark, and we were on one side of the road and on the other side of the road, the company was, and he said there was nothing going on. All you could hear is the clink of the stuff, the shovel or whatever on your back, and he said that there's fires going, and very lights are going up, he said.